Good morning. I warmly and officially welcome you to the historic Capecoast Castle. My name is Kwesi Openg. You can simply call me Kwesi. I will be with you for 21 forts and castles dotted along the coastline. The Europeans built about 40 of such structures, forts and castles in West Africa. Out of that number, over 30 built in Gold Coast, now Ghana alone, all because of our gold. But some of the forts are no more. So we have the 3 castles existence in about 18 forts. First castle built in Ghana is the one at Elmina, St. George's Castle, built by the Portuguese in the year 1482. 1482. Being the oldest, the largest, the biggest castle in the country, oldest European structure in the entire West. Elmina Castle is over 500 years old. Second castle is in Accra, Christiansborg, Osu, built by the Danes, Denmark, 1662. This is the youngest, the third, the last castle, Capecoast Castle, built by the British. This English castle, 1665. Over 300 years, very old, but the structure is still strong. Surprisingly, the original structure, like in here, by the English, has no cement, no iron rods. Any cement mortar you see here is for recent restoration works. They used burnt bricks imported, lime powder from oyster shells with oil and sand as binder, stones, pitch pine timber, with cheap African labor, if not free. They built a castle. Took the British about 50 bad years, 50 years to construct in stages, because no machinery, all done by human labor, manpower. Imagine the number of Africans who died during the construction works. Now let's come to our substantive issue. Transatlantic slave trade, or the triangular trade. I believe some of the world viewed this Atlantic Ocean here. Why triangular? The journey of the trade was like a triangle. The Europeans came from Europe to West Africa, being one leg of the triangle, came here with gunpowder, mirror, tobacco, and others, exchanged them for captives, Africans, sent them to the Americas to work on plantations, took farm produce like sugarcane back to Europe to feed their factories. They came back again, the cycle, the journey continued, hence the name the triangular trade. But the Europeans came to West Africa with a couple of reasons. They came here to search for minerals, spread Christianity, and search for an alternative route to India, to circumvent the Arabs who came to Africa first. But they mainly settled at the northern part of the continent. And they were taking minerals as well as slaves via the Sahara Desert, sold them in Asian markets. The Europeans wanted to break the monopoly the Arabs were enjoying by finding the source of these minerals themselves. So they also began to explore. Led by the Portuguese under the patronage of Prince Henry the Navigator, started from Ceuta, Senegambia. 1471, they got to our coast, and their first point of contact was Edna. They had a lot of gold from Edna, so they named the area El Mina, which means the mine, now corrupted El Mina. So they went to the then chief of Edna, called Nana Kwame Nansa, to give them a parcel of land, to build a structure, to aid their business, and also to protect their interest. The chief resisted, but upon several persuasions he gave them a portion of land they built in Mina Castle in 1482. Led by Christopher Columbus, who spent some couple of weeks at Elmina. They got to the Americas around 1492. When they got there, they saw fertile land, good for agriculture. So the Europeans started growing plantations, large-scale farms. Labor became a problem, because the natives, they call them the Red Indians, they relied on were not effective. They were dying of tropical diseases, malnutrition and others. And they were here already, so they had fair knowledge about Africans. Very strong. They can withstand tropical diseases. In short, we are naturally farmers. So they said, no, Africans could work better than those who were engaged. So a Catholic bishop by name, Bartolome de las Casas, petitioned to the Spanish crown to allow importation of Africans to the New World. His petition was granted, and transatlantic slave trade officially began. They started getting our people by raiding and kidnapping. For instance, they could set a village on fire And as the people were running helter-skelter for their lives, they kidnapped the youth. You could be working in your farm with your children, you look back and they are kidnapped away. Even if you see them in the process and you shout, you could be killed. Sometimes they deceived some of our people. For instance, let's go inside our ships and have fun. The locals free-mindedly understood, packed their drums and other playing instruments, went to them, and as they were enjoying, they gave them a lot of alcoholic beverages. They chained and shackled them, and they timed their lives to the high seas. Please step down. I reserve the place for you. They ended up working for them. You know, there were some instances where some Africans, chiefs, traditional rulers brought captives and sold to the Europeans. Sometimes, when some of our brothers and sisters from the diaspora, I mean, some of the African Americans, when they come, they blame us. They say, oh, you sold our brothers and sisters, your brothers and sisters into slavery. But sometimes I beg to differ. He's a brother. You know, there was something like Ghana, not Togo, not Burkina Faso, not with a common language. Tribes, kingdoms, ethnic groups. Let me branch somewhere and tell you something. You know, demarcation of Africa took place around 1884, 1885, when all the European countries then, with the exception of Switzerland and United States of America, met in Germany in what they called the Berlin Conference and demarcated, shared the continent of Africa to themselves. Sadly, we Africans were not even part of the Berlin Conference. And we as Africans are still holding on to this boundary things Europeans left for us. That's what I'm saying. There were tribes, kingdoms, ethnic groups. All these groups wanted power, wanted vast land for agriculture. It's that they were fighting among themselves. For instance, I'll be fighting my brother here or his ethnic group over a parcel of land. If I defeat him, instead of killing him and his people, I would rather abduct them, sell them to the Europeans for gunpowder, take over the land and all the natural resources that come with it. Next time, use these ammunition to fight my next people. And sadly, we still see these things in Africa. We fight ourselves. We are not united. And that's what the Europeans want. Some of them were. So I mean, some those sold by our people were prisoners of war, heavy debtors, criminals and others. Wherever they got these people, they walked in chains and shackles. Some of them died on the way. Because imagine, walking from Kumasi to Capecoast, over 200 kilometers away. Tamale is over 400 kilometers. But relatively, Kumasi Tamale is not far, because others came from present-day Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, and others, because Ghana was the major transit point. Those who made it in this castle, when they arrived, they took them into a hall called Palava Hall. The ladies, not Palava so. Palava Hall was the auction hall where doctors, nurses in there examined the captive to determine their strength. After, human beings, Africans, were exchanged for gunpowder, mirror, tobacco, fabrics, rum. You know rum, alcohol, brasswares and others according to their strength. Meaning Africans were reduced low to the level of commodity, like mirror, After the auction, because the barrels were several, they brought them down to the courtyard and burnt marks on them. They were branded for easy identification before they were pushed into the dungeons. They stayed in here for a few days to about 3 months, waiting for the ships. When the ships came, they were loaded, sent them to North America, South America, the Caribbean, or the West Indies, like Brazil. And I'm mentioning Brazil first because Brazil received the highest number of captives. And even today, in the whole world, Brazil is the second country with the highest number of black population. Over 100 million blacks in Brazil. Nigeria being the first. Ghana is just around 30 million. So they sent to Brazil, US of A, Suriname, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, Antigua, Jamaica, Haiti, and others to work on sugarcane, tobacco, cotton, coffee plantations. Few were sent to some of the European countries to do construction works. Male dungeon here, female dungeons down close to the door of no return. But please listen, right on top of this dungeon, above this dungeon, was a church.
Wow.
Can you imagine?
The irony.
Monday through Saturday, the British bought our forefathers, Africans, as slaves, held them in dungeons. Sundays, they had church services above them. That is why in Ghana, some people say the ship that brought Bible took slaves away. And first president of Kenya, Jomo Kenyatta, once said, when the missionaries arrived, Africans had land, we had Bible. They taught us how to pray with our eyes closed. When we opened our eyes, they had land, we had Bible.
We still have the Bible.
Yes. Any question?